Welcome to this explainer. We're so often told that self-awareness is the absolute ultimate goal, right? It's held up as this golden hallmark of being a fully realized, healthy adult. But there is this quiet, honestly kind of unsettling truth that most psychology books just totally leave out. For a lot of people, being highly observant and hyper-self-aware, it wasn't some conscious choice they made to better themselves. It's a weight. It's a really heavy weight they carry. So in this explainer, we're going to dive deep into the hidden costs of being highly observant. We'll explore those quiet, unseen parts of human behavior that people, they rarely talk about.
We hear it constantly. Self-awareness is the ultimate goal. Society pushes this narrative everywhere we look, this idea that high self-awareness is always this beautiful, chosen, enlightened state of being. We're told, hey, if we just analyze ourselves enough, we'll finally find peace. But for those who actually live with this extreme level of awareness, that quote often feels like a massive misunderstanding. It basically frames a truly exhausting daily reality as some sort of luxury or just a quirky personality trait.
But think about this. What if your hyper-awareness wasn't developed in a calm, comfortable therapist's office? What if instead it was built in a house where the air was just heavy with things left unsaid? If you find yourself chronically exhausted by your own mind, it might actually be because your awareness is a survival strategy. It's an adaptation you formed incredibly early on, just to navigate a world or a childhood that felt really unreliable.
Section 1. The burden of self-awareness. See, when you're highly self-aware, you don't just live your life, you watch yourself living it. It's like you're the actor, the director, and the most unforgiving critic sitting right in the front row, all at the exact same time. If you spend a lifetime being the observant one, you know the absolute crushing weight of noticing everything. You catch these microscopic shifts in a friend's tone way before they even realize they're frustrated. You're acutely aware of exactly how you're sitting, the rhythm of your breathing, and precisely how much physical and emotional space you're taking up in a room. And the hardest part of all this? This level of observation rarely, if ever, actually turns off.
Moving to Section 2. Scanning instead of feeling.
So this isn't just being a deep thinker. It's actually a state of chronic, nonstop mental activity. Your brain is constantly, and I mean constantly, searching for patterns, consequences, and deeper meanings in every single interaction. Why? Well, because in your past, missing a single piece of information, like a subtle frown or a long pause, once meant that something could go terribly wrong. The crucial underlying mechanism at play here is hyper-vigilance. That's a nervous system adaptation that learned to prioritize scanning over feeling. When a child's emotional world is overlooked, or when the emotional support they get is totally inconsistent, the brain adapts. It becomes hyper-aware of social signals, because identifying what's happening in the external environment becomes far more important than processing internal emotions.
And this is the quiet truth for so many people. You learn to read people exceptionally well because you had to anticipate their moods just to stay safe, or simply to make sure you were included. If you were never the priority, or never the first choice, your brain quickly learned that being ignored or rejected usually comes quietly. So you adapted. You adapted by sensing emotional distance way before anyone else even admitted it was there.
Section 3. Your military-grade radar.
I want you to think of your mind as a radar system. While most people have a radar that, pings occasionally, just enough to make sure they aren't walking into a wall or making some huge social blunder, yours is military grade. It's scanning 360 degrees, 24 hours a day, 0 bricks. It picks up the actual physical temperature of the room. It catches the hidden subtext of a simple 3-word text message. It even tracks the internal fluctuations of your own heart rate. Processing all of these variables at the exact same time leads to this constant mental hum. It drains an unbelievable amount of your cognitive energy, which often leaves you feeling totally mentally fatigued before your day has even truly begun.
Let's take the most ordinary, everyday interaction. How are you? Now, for the average person, this is just a totally throwaway greeting. But for the hyper-aware brain, it turns the simplest social exchange into a highly complex puzzle that you're suddenly required to solve in real time. Because when someone asks how you are, you don't just answer them, oh no. Step 1. Your radar immediately scans the last 3 days of your behavior. Step 2. You evaluate your current level of fatigue. Step 3. You frantically predict how your honest answer might actually affect the other person's mood. And then, finally, Step 4. You produce a safe, socially acceptable, perfectly filtered response. It's a massive, frankly exhausting processing load just to exist in a normal conversation. Which brings us to Section 4, the weight of split maturity.
This intense early responsibility, it forces a really strange developmental divide. Some kids, they don't lose their childhood suddenly in some big dramatic event. They just sort of outgrow it quietly because they look around and realize someone has to be the responsible one. Psychologists actually call this parentification. It happens when a child is expected to manage incredibly complex emotions, either their own or someone else's, long before they're developmentally ready to handle them. So the brain does what it has to do. It adapts by suppressing its own needs. You learn to stay calm, you learn to solve problems. You weren't just born with this serious, mature personality. You became strong because there was absolutely no other option.
And this creates a really profound split in who you are. On the outside, you grew up incredibly fast. The world looks at you and sees someone who is composed, wise, and highly responsible. You've got it all together. But on the inside, it's an entirely different reality. You are exhausted. You are intensely hypervigilant. Your nervous system is constantly treating even the most peaceful, mundane, everyday situations as completely unpredictable and potentially dangerous.
Because of this history, relaxation does not come easily to you at all. Actually, you might even feel a deep sense of guilt for resting, or this weird unease when you're doing absolutely nothing. In your past, calm was rarely genuinely safe, right? It was often just the silence right before a storm. When things were quiet, that usually meant something was about to go wrong. So you aren't just overthinking things today. Your brain is actively, desperately trying to protect you from a threat that doesn't actually exist anymore.
Section 5. Teaching the guard to rest.
Moving toward any kind of clarity starts with one fundamental realization. Your hyper-awareness is not a flaw. It's not a sign that you're broken or defective. It is a highly sophisticated, deeply intelligent adaptation to your past. You learn to be your own emotional manager because, well, there was no one else there to do it for you. You learn to trust your own intense analysis because the actions of the people around you didn't always make sense. But right now, your awareness is acting like a guard. It's standing at the front door, constantly pacing, waiting for a crisis that just isn't coming.
See, the goal of healing isn't to somehow magically become less aware. For a mind that processes as many variables as yours does, that's probably impossible anyway. The real goal is to change the intent behind the awareness. Healing means taking that hyper-vigilant guard and gently teaching them that they are finally allowed to stand down. It means recognizing that when you feel that overwhelming, sudden urge to overread a room, it's really just a sign that your body is feeling unsafe. It doesn't mean there's an actual emergency happening right in front of you.
If you've spent your entire life being the one who notices everything, I really need you to hear this. Your self-awareness was built to help you survive a world that felt incredibly unreliable. But you're not in that world anymore. You are allowed to be unoptimized. You are allowed to completely miss a social cue. You are even allowed to be the very last person in the room to realize how you are feeling. I know the cost of being highly self-aware has been incredibly high for you. But the reward of finally trusting yourself enough to stop watching your every single move, that is where the real peace begins. Think about that tonight. You don't have to solve yourself anymore. What would happen if you finally allowed yourself to just live?